listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the Awards Watch Podcast, episode 198. I'm the executive editor, Ryan McQuade. Joining me today is Erik Anderson.
Hello.
Our editor-in-chief, I should say. Erik Anderson. Get your title right. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm already fired. Sophia Ciminello.
Hi, everyone.
And we have a guest today. It's not anybody else from the crew. Everybody else got the week off. She is a writer and podcaster and journalist. She's got this great show that you should all hear because we've all been a guest on it. Pop Culture Confidential is Christina Jeurling Birro is joining us today. Christina, how are you doing today?
Hi, thank you so much for having me come on. You guys have all been favorite guests and are on my show, so happy to see you here.
I have been dying to have you on. And it feels like we've been saying, yes, we're going to get you on the show, get you on the show. And now we finally have you on the show because we're talking about...
I've been starting to wonder.
I say blame Erik because he finances the show. Well, he finances the show. It's technically the Awards Watch Podcast. Wow. It's on the website. You can blame the boss a little bit, I think. But we're all here to talk about the Telluride Film Festival and give a preview to a festival that we will be at in less than 10 days at the time of recording. It's always also the kickoff of the at least North American film festivals, but as this year it's the kickoff of the film festival week because Venice will be happening at literally the same time. So there's lots to discuss. But Erik, you're a veteran of the Telluride Film Festival, right? It's 50 years, so you've been to all 50?
Yes, I was there at the first one. I actually started the Telluride Film Festivals.
I knew it.
A lot of people don't know that or believe it, but it is absolutely fact checkable. I did start the Telluride Film Festival. Yeah.
He emerged from a crevice in one of the mountains and walked out and said, "Cinema." And then it all just started happening. But no, this is your fifth time?
I mean, technically fifth, but really fourth since 2020 was canceled.
Yeah. So Erik's a veteran. I went for my first time last year. Truly wonderful experience. But Sophia and Christina, this is going to be your first times going to this festival. So I'm curious, Christina, for you, what you're looking forward to, maybe just outside of the festival, or maybe it's just the festival. That's what you're looking forward to the most. But, once you get to Telluride, because you're going to get there ahead of all of us. Mm-hmm. So what are you looking forward to the most about going?
Well, Ryan, there's so many things. I mean, this is the festival I wanted to go to for so many years. And just in terms of money and planning and everything to be able to get there has been a huge thing. So this is a bucket list item for me, actually, in terms of my film history. And so excited. And also the fact that I'm getting to spend time with you guys who I've been talking to for years now and saying that's the huge benefit for this. The movies, I'm anticipating what I have read through decades and what you guys have told me, that this is a festival where you really talk movies, you meet aficionados, it's a festival where you're out in the streets, you're talking movies, in the screenings, you're talking movies. It's just a really great atmosphere. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I am having a fashion crisis because I have followed Erik through the years at festivals, and I know the custom-made suits that you'll be bringing to different parties, and I do not have the budget for these things that I have seen you pictured wearing. So I'm having a bit of an existential crisis as to this, but I'm hoping that on this show you will give me a few guidelines as to how to adapt.
The guideline I'll give you is glue gun and hope. Because I am like a walking Holly Hobby, and I am held together by faith, more faith than like a Baptist minister.
Oh my God.
Let's
this
just
Holly
hope.
Hobby is a fashionista.
I think I might be a little reserved this time. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Ryan, I'm just really looking forward to everything. And what I'm, is we don't know the schedule yet. Everything is exciting to see, but I'm, as we're starting to understand who's coming and what movies are going to be there, I'm just even more excited. So that's.
I will say just a trusty pair of jeans and just comfortable attire is always the best thing, because that's the thing I love about Telluride so much. And then I'll get to your answer here real quick, Sophia, is that while Venice is going on, and that's always usually the red carpets and the glitz and the glamour. I mean, I think of when I think of the Venice Film Festival, I think of the Dune premiere a couple years ago, where it's like, Zendaya and Chalamet and, Oscar Isaac and Rebecca Ferguson and all these stars are on there. Well, with the strike this year, there's not going to be that many stars or red carpet opportunities this year, but it's still a very prestigious, and everyone's wearing suits to their premieres. You get away with a jean jacket and some jeans and some nice boots, and what's so great is when you see stars that have been on the red carpet, like you think of like last year, I think of like Cate Blanchett, they were all, and Todd Field, they were all at Venice, and they're all wearing nice gowns and suits, and then they're there and wearing leather jackets, and Todd Field's got his hats, and everybody's just it's more relaxed. It feels even though it's very prestigious, and it's very exclusive because of how much it costs, and getting there is like an hour and a half from the little airport and everything. It does feel it's once you're all there with everybody else that's there as well, it feels kind of normal, and it doesn't feel as heightened as other things. But then you're seeing all these great films. Sophia, I know that you've been to a lot of film festivals just like the rest of us, but this is going to be your first time. So expectations for yourself, like what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so I've been to a number of film festivals, and what I love about them is that every single film festival has its own flavor, really. And Christina, you said bucket list, and Telluride has always been a bucket list film festival for me. Mm-hmm. It's because of its size, how everyone there, I think, just feels, it's almost like kind of like the beginning of fall camp or something like that. Like everyone is together like very closely. And I feel like what is really cool about it is that it's a filmmaker focused festival. That's something that's always been really exciting to me about it. And I think that, festivals like Cannes and Venice that are so glamorous, part of the thing about those festivals is that they are, at the end of the day, competitions, right? Like you're competing for the Golden Lion, you're competing for the Palme d'Or. And Telluride, I think, has just always felt to me like this small scale, but very exciting celebration of every single film and person that's there. So that's something I think that I'm really looking forward to. And I'm just excited to see Telluride. I think I've spent so much of my time in the US on the East Coast. And anytime I go out West, it's usually to go to LA. And I've never been to Telluride. So I'm just excited to see it, to see the mountains, and really to just talk about these movies in what feels like the official kickoff to the fall season.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it from the standpoint of like, even Toronto has the audience awards, and everyone, this doesn't have any of that. It just, you see the films, you see the lineup, they have multiple opportunities, like the opening kind of like brunch, or it's not a brunch, but it's like an opening feed on Thursday night. And then they have the luncheon on Monday. So that's always great opportunities to get together, and you never know. And that's always the great thing about a film festival is you never know who you're going to sit next to. You never know who you're going to talk to. And I think last year I talked to some people that had come all the way from like the East Coast, and they had no affiliation with, film coverage or in the industry, but they just heard so much about this festival. And like you both said, it was a bucket list item for them. And that they did it. And they said, we're going to be back next year. And then the next year after that. And then we watched Broker, and they were like, that was so good. And it was, so it's also a great place. I feel where people that appreciate cinema can come together, and you may not all agree on the films and what was the best and whatnot, but you're a part of this communal experience in these very quiet, beautiful location. And it's also this very small town environment too. So you feel like you're outside of the world, even though you're not that far from a Wi-Fi password. But also too, then there's all the great food and the shops and everything's within walking distance, and and hopefully this year Erik remembers his pass before we leave the apartment, because he missed that like 3 times last year, and it was.
Well, he told us before we started that he walks fast, so you'll just have to run back.
That's true. He did have to run back at one point. He did.
I just ran back for it. It was like nothing.
Yeah. Over under 2.5 times this year. You're going to do
it. Let's see. My memory is shot, so I assume I'll need to do it every day.
So the over. Okay. Well, that's
yeah. And I'm not a Holly hobby really when it comes to fashion. Like, I don't do a lot of the sequins or anything, but I have to say, I've been planning my Telluride outfits for a very long time, going for like a Western 70s, like Faye Dunaway vibe. That's kind of where I'm leaning. So I'm very, very excited. Yeah. But I will wear comfortable shoes.
Yes.
Definitely do comfortable shoes. I saw that Farrah Fawcett tweet.
Oh, yes.
Sophia, and that should totally be your vibe.
I'm going to pack it. I have the flares, same wash, ready to go.
I just got a couple of nice shirts and some jeans and some comfortable shoes and a couple of jackets, and that's all I need. Because last year I packed way too much, so
I'm a notorious overpacker. It's fine.
I know. I'm always paying that fee at the airport for
mine always pushes 50 pounds, and most of that is shoes, so I always have to be careful. But
well, we might as well start breaking down the films that are potentially, we kind of know that will be at the festival, because of the fact that you can read through the tea leaves as to what will be at these premieres, because of designations that are given at Venice and NYFF.
Well, Venice is always world premiere. Cannes always world premiere. It's New York and Toronto that gives us the
no, for sure,
the designations.
Yeah, and due to schedule with Venice, you can tell what might carry over from Venice the next day or the day of, depending on time zones, to the Telluride Film Festival as well. So Erik has done a lovely job at putting together a list that we are all going to look at here. And Erik, would you like to talk about all the films that we're not going to be seeing there, and make us all sad that these movies won't be gracing our eyeballs?
I mean, this is probably a good place to start. So, getting things out of the way that we know are not going to be there, from, very high profile things to maybe some esoteric things that maybe we wanted to see. And to your point about Venice, because Venice overlaps and goes beyond Telluride and actually goes into TIFF. It's insane this year. A few of the late breakers at Venice, like Maestro and The Killer, make it impossible to show up at Telluride.
Unless something crazy happens, but it's highly doubtful.
That is, and we can get into the conversation about how all of the programmers of each of these major festivals manage, and we probably should talk about that, because it's a really interesting dynamic. Because
we can talk about it right now.
Julie Hunsinger does Telluride. She's the only woman in the game still, and Alberto Barbera does Venice. Terry Fremo does Cannes, and Cameron Bailey does TIFF. And so they're all vying for these world premieres and for these big titles. And because everything is so close, it's often a fight, like right to the end. And I think we know, rather famously, 2 years ago, Belfast was announced by Toronto as a world premiere in this huge gala presentation. And then, surprise, Julie scooped it up for Telluride as a world premiere. And it was such a big, baller, shocking move, because it's the kind of thing that these guys do with each other all the time. It is such a dick waving contest, and she came in with the biggest one, and it was awesome. I loved it. It was great. But it is definitely a fight between all of these festivals as to who is going to get what. and how these designations break down.
Yeah. Especially also too, this year it's extremely a fight, I think, between what we'll see here at Telluride and Venice, because usually there's carryover from Venice to Telluride, but because Venice is literally happening at the exact same time, Venice is usually about a week before, or at least 5 days before Telluride.
It's always
really
within
close.
A day or two. It always is. That isn't different, but it's the extra day at Telluride is what's kind of giving us fewer Venice titles, which means we're just going to have more Cannes titles. There are probably going to be like 15 Cannes titles here, as long as they aren't, jumping over to do like New York or TIFF. And there are definitely a handful that are doing have a New York announcement, and that's the North American premiere, or the Telluride or the Toronto is the North American premiere, which that's the thing that tells us it won't be a Telluride.
Yeah.
And the strikes must have really affected this whole scheduling.
I think it affected Toronto more than any other festival, because when you look at Venice and when you look at what Telluride is going to get and what New York has already landed, they have major titles, big titles, star heavy titles, which won't have the stars, but they are pretty big. And TIFF is a little bit light on that. It's still a very huge international lineup, but I don't think it's quite as star heavy glitzy as the others.
For award season purposes too, a lot of the players that we talked about last week when we were talking about Oscar predictions, or films that we were seeing in the race, or potential films that could be in the race, Venice, Telluride, New York have a lot of those titles like you're mentioning, Erik. And so, and a lot of the, like Telluride being a very director focused festival, when you look at TIFF's lineup, they have a couple of big titles from directors, but Venice has blown them out of the water. New York's presentations already are being announced, and they look like they have a lot of carryover from Venice, and even some world premieres that would normally feel like Toronto would possibly get some of those. But it also does ebb and flow between these three huge late August, early September festivals. Between, some years Venice isn't as strong as a Telluride, or a Toronto is stronger. Like last year, Toronto had a very big year and a very big presence. They had world premieres of like The Fabelmans and Glass Onion and The Woman King, and they had a lot of big presentations. But I think you're right. Either the strike or just something caused them, beyond what we know currently right now, for them not to have as strong of a presence this season. Though they'll probably have some great titles, and we'll be talking and seeing those. You and I, Erik, and a bunch of team members will be there at Toronto to talk about those. But let's look at some
more of the things that aren't going to be there.
Yeah, movies that, speaking of which aren't going to be at Telluride. Yeah.
Sophia Ciminello Priscilla is not going to be there. Next Goal Wins. Monster.
Shame.
May December. Ferrari. Of like the major titles.
Maestro, The Killer.
Yeah, I already mentioned the Maestro and The Killer. But like Foe, the Saoirse Ronan, Paul Mescal. But we will have a Paul Mescal movie here, so bless.
He is our little New York darling lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Boy and the Heron is obviously the Miyazaki film that is the marquee film at Toronto, and also is designated for a North American premiere at NYFF. You then look at
La Chimera is a bit of a surprise, because that's going to do Cannes, TIFF, and NIF and skip Telluride. That was a little bit of a surprise. It seemed like that was one of the few movies that was going to hit everything. And as far as I can tell, there isn't anything that's really going everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, even something like Evil Does Not Exist, which is the Hamaguchi follow-up to Drive My Car, that's playing Venice TIFF and NIF, and it will not be at Telluride as well. And then again, those two are, or at least that film specifically, that's a scheduling conflict. Probably debuting later in the festival, so at Venice, so therefore it takes it out of competition for the lineup at Telluride. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and then we heard about Hitman, which is the new Richard Linklater film, and that is having a Venice and TIFF designation. You mentioned Foe, that was just announced this week. But the New Boy, which with Cate Blanchett, that was a Cannes title. That will be at TIFF. Pain Hustlers, Dumb Money. Those are TIFF destination films as well too. So
and I'm thinking of Lee, the Ellen Kuras film with Kate Winslet, which does not have a distributor, so it is using TIFF as its sales launchpad, which has been very, very successful in the past. I, Tonya was bought there, Still Alice, The Wife. Several actors contenders have kicked off at TIFF, being bought there. So it makes sense that that's the only place that it's going to be. But
I'm curious, and Christina and Sophia, you can talk about this, but we also have a ton of titles that don't have any presence that what we were looking at already. And is there a title that kind of sticks out to you as, that you're surprised that hasn't been announced at any of these festivals? And probably also at this point, some of these titles might not even make it to Telluride, it feels like. Do you guys have one?
Yeah. I mean, I will start with The Iron Claw, Sean Durkin's follow-up to The Nest. I mean, his first two films, his only two features, both had Sundance premieres. So I think it would have made sense for that film to go to Sundance. But then, once we learned a little bit more about it and what was happening with scheduling and things like that, I assumed it has to have a premiere somewhere. It's been slated for a December release, I believe, by A24 right now. And I feel like, I don't know, this one could be sneaky. I kind of thought, maybe New York would get it for a world premiere, but if it's not anywhere yet, that tells me maybe Telluride, or it could go straight there, but it would seem unlikely with what A24 is doing right now with festivals for it to just not have anything.
Yeah, they were all over the festival scene last year, debuting pretty much every film in their slate at festival runs. I don't know of many films that didn't, in one way or another, even like Marcel, Aftersun, The Whale, obviously, Everything Everywhere All at Once, early in the season, but at least had a presence throughout. I mean, they were pretty dominant.
Well, Marcel was at Telluride a full year before.
Yeah, and then it was
wild.
And then it re-premiered technically at or re-screened again at South by the same time as Everything Everywhere All at Once. So they were and then of course there's like Close and a ton of other titles that they had as well. Christina, did you see a title there that you're kind of surprised?
Well, I'm curious to know from you guys why Love Lies Bleeding is still there. I mean, that's one of the movies. I mean, Rose Glass for me, Saint Maud. So I'm so waiting to see in her new movie with Kristen Stewart and Dave Franco, Jenna Malone. Why is this not anywhere?
Erik?
That movie feels like a Berlin premiere to me. Rose Glass and Stewart at Berlin makes a lot of sense to me. But also, too, it's another A24 film. And they also have Civil War. And what the hell is going on with that movie? Where is it? So they have more on their plate than I think they can kind of deal with. And last year, with The Whale and Everything Everywhere and Aftersun, they did an amazing job with them, but they also kind of had lives of their own, and really kind of carried themselves through the season in a major way. And I think some of these titles are going to need a little more guidance and assistance. My thought is that it will be at Berlin. Maybe Sundance, but it feels like Berlin.
Yeah.
And I was always wondering about the Freud's last session, Anthony Hopkins and Matthew Good, with the meeting between C.S. Lewis and Sigmund Freud. I was expecting that to see that somewhere. That's Sony, right? You think it could be? Yeah.
I'm thinking it might be here. Yeah. So you can see I've got little asterisks on those ones, and those where I'm like, either I think something is, or I know something is. So
look at you hedging your bets there. But no, I think one movie for me that I saw on this list, and I was like, I forgot the movie existed for half a second, but then I saw, I was like, which is always a good sign, right? But then I was thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute, I know who's directing that. That's a big star. It was Night Bitch, and I thought about Mariel Heller, and I thought about how her films have premiered at festivals. Can you ever forgive me, and Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and how those had TIFF runs, if I'm not mistaken. But also a director that feels perfect to celebrate as a tribute at Telluride, and someone that has done a really great job at making a name for herself, and works with very talented actors, and in Searchlight, having that film, obviously I think it's like a Searchlight, it's going to go to Hulu if I'm not mistaken, but so that may be why it's not here, but anywhere at all, like not being at even Toronto was kind of interesting. So I was looking out for that one. And then, this whole internet thing where people that follow the Oscars, they are obsessed with Jessica Lange getting back into the conversation.
Yep.
Right, Erik? You know what I'm talking about, right? See, sometimes I bring up internet things and Erik's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I'm bringing up this one. And
you didn't even have to finish that
one too. This is real.
Oh yeah. You didn't even have to finish that sentence because I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah. So Long Day's Journey into Night, which has had like a photo out for like the last year and a half, it felt like, with like Ed Harris holding her hand. Where's that movie? Does it exist, MGM? And that's an MGM problem too. I was just, I was about to say.
Like the whole MGM, Orion, United Artists
under
thing,
Amazon.
I don't know if I will ever solve this or if anyone has the answers to what's going on there.
Sophia, it's our second greatest mystery of life.
Just the second greatest though.
Yeah.
Not the first.
Never the first. But no, I think that, Erik, The Nickel Boys is also an MGM film. That I don't know if you said this in a piece or something, but that seems to be like it's moved to a 2024 title placement, right?
I'm kind of assuming so, yeah. And I had it, in some low level predictions, but you get to a point in the season where you're not hearing anything, and sure, there could be a surprise announcement in October, and here we go. But yeah, to the MGM thing, they are still in their extreme growing pains of what is Amazon, what's MGM, because they do have specific separations, and then other times they are together. Like Saltburn is Amazon Studios. And then, yes, the UAR and Orion also are bundled into that, but they're not always all together. So there's no rhyme or reason to it even from our visibility, like real perspective. So I think it's going to be another year or so before we really fully understand what is under what banner and why. But yes, this movie, Long Day's Journey into Night, I swear to God, every single time I put out a prediction piece, people get on.
Where is it, Erik? Do you not know about Jessica Lange? She's royalty.
Why is Jessica Lange not in your top 5? This is absolutely crazy. She's going to win her 14th Oscar. And I'm like, that's cool. Maybe if something was actually happening with it, I would. It's got a picture and it has a studio, but it has nothing else. There are other movies that have less than that are in better shape.
Yeah, but
we just don't know.
But Erik, that makes sense. And the internet doesn't make sense. Those people have no, you know better than that.
Listen, I am completely on the side of obsessing over actresses and being very concerned about their futures, like most of the people are for Jessica Lange in this movie.
Ryan,
I'm there.
Cares.
I care.
Yes,
I'm there
you care.
with them completely. But I don't know anything more, so I don't have anything to offer. So,
yes, Christina.
Have any of you seen anything from Johan Renk's Spaceman with Adam Sandler? A single picture, anything? Because I remember talking to him about it like around Chernobyl. I just don't know what is that for real.
Is that movie?
It is.
Is
it is. I did have a conversation about that movie about a week ago, and like with a few things, it's just sort of up in the air and they don't know what to do with it yet, but
it's floating in space.
I wouldn't expect it to be a part of festival or awards conversation.
Well, and then also too, I think about Neon. They have Mother's Instinct. We saw a trailer for that.
Yes, which got taken from the internet because it was put up illegally.
Mm-hmm. And so we all saw that.
It was fun.
It was a good trailer. Anne Hathaway. Speaking of actresses, Anne Hathaway and Jessica Chastain.
I'm sorry, throwing children off balconies. That is my bread and butter.
Erik was like the feel-good movie of the year.
Thank you.
But then they also have The Actor too, and so not
also a movie that might exist, but where
and looking at the titles, Neon usually has a film or so here at the festival, and not.
Well, we know what that's going to be.
Yeah, and so usually studios they usually like carrying maybe one or two more, but yeah, those are the films that we're most likely not going to see or don't have any presence, but we do kind of know what are going to be the films that are going to be at this festival. So we can start talking about those. Erik, you put this list together, this lovely list of films. So go on ahead and spoil it for everybody. What do you think based off all the tea leaves, talking about like how you're moving mountains just to like, it feels like Minority Report, where you got like the screens and you're moving everything's with your hands. This is going to be here. So
that's exactly what it is.
Move that screen forward and tell us about these world premieres.
So, well, before we get to world premieres, I want to talk about the things that will be coming from other festivals, because we just talked about the ones that won't be and are hitting.
Well, this is going to be this will be the point of a big conversation.
So this is largely the Cannes films, and the things we're talking about are a small portion. There will be 50 some odd films here. So we're going to see a handful of things from Cannes, like The Zone of Interest, which won the Grand Prix, Anatomy of a Fall, which won the Palme. Those are absolutely playing everywhere. They're just killing it. I think we will also see Fair Play from Netflix, which debuted at Sundance, and it will be at TIFF. I think we're going to see it here as well. Also from Netflix, the new Pablo Larraín, El Conde, which is a vampire comedy and looks absolutely amazing. It will be at Venice, but it is playing, I think, like the first.
It's like the first day. Yeah, it's like
so it's one of those that should be able to come over.
Not just any vampire. Pinochet as a vampire.
Pinochet as a 250-year-old vampire. It's really been like the year of vampires, and I really need one to like land and be good. Yeah. So I'm excited for this. And doing this before his Maria Callas with Angelina Jolie, like wild.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Crazy. Also coming from Cannes, I think we'll see Fallen Leaves and Perfect Days, and The Pot au Feu, which is now called The Taste of Things.
What a terrible title. It's a terrible title.
Americans are so boring.
God damn, it's stupid.
And the Settlers, I think we'll see from Cannes. And again, these are based on how the designations are being listed at Toronto and New York, whether it's a Canadian premiere or an international premiere or North American premiere. If it says North American premiere at, TIFF and NIF, it's not going to be at Telluride unless there is some very sneaky math going on. And there has been, because I think there are a couple of things here that could bypass that. But what else do we have?
Well, I was.
Oh, Poor Things. Poor Things.
I was going to say, I was going to ask Sophia and Christina too, if off that other festivals list, there's a title that you're looking at specifically and seeing it, hoping that it carries over from another festival, like a Poor Things, I guess.
Poor Things, absolutely. Yeah, Lanthimos. I cannot wait for that one. I mean, that's my big thing at the festival. Also, the both Hüller films, which I'm very much looking forward to. I can't wait to see those. And Justin Triet, who had made such an incredible speech when she won, that an uproar in the entire French establishment. So you have a little feeling, Eric, that she may get a tribute, and that would be amazing. Justin Triet, if that would be the case. Sophia?
Yeah, so The Zone of Interest is my most anticipated film, basically coming out for the rest of the year, what I haven't seen yet. There are a couple. Well, I'm saving one.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in a minute. I
didn't want to tease it too much, but
take that title out. And
yes, we're eliminating that one. But looking at this list, I am also going to New York Film Festival this year. So there are some titles where I see them and I see that they're going to New York, and I think, okay, maybe I'll save that for then. Maybe I'll free up my schedule for some things that I can only see at Telluride. Well, The Zone of Interest is going to New York Film Festival, but I have to see it at Telluride. Like the Glazer film. Wait. Just the things that I've heard about this, and I haven't read reviews because I really don't want to know anything going into it at all. But just the little bits and pieces that I've heard from people who have been to Cannes, who have said to me specifically, like, this is a movie that you specifically will love. Like, it is just very much up your alley. I can't wait to see it. And Christina, I agree with you. Like Sandra Hüller, Anatomy of a Fall, right? Also, just I think a lot of people expected The Zone of Interest to win the Palm, and the fact that it didn't, that it went to Anatomy of a Fall, I'm really curious to see that one. I also love a good courtroom film, and I know that some of this takes place in a courtroom too. So yeah, very excited for that. But I would say those two right now, even though they're both going to NIF as well, are the ones that stick out to me.
We did have a trailer for Anatomy of a Fall drop this week that does a feature quote from our AwardsWatch review out of Cannes. We can kind of pat ourselves on the back a little bit about that, but yes, those seem to be the films that are Anatomy of a Fall and The Zone of Interest that are going to be playing everywhere, making the rounds. Obviously, those are going to be A24 and Neon's big international pushes as well as Oscar pushes as well. I bought stock a long time ago on Jonathan Glazer, and I absolutely love his films, and it's been a long time since Under the Skin, and to see that this movie is, being held as his definitive masterpiece by so many people, I cannot wait to see that. There's a title that premiered over at Sundance. I wrote the review for it on awardswatch.com. We had a trailer for that come up this week, and that was All Dirt Roads, Taste of Salt, which is a potential film that could come out, Raven Jackson's film. And that film also is from the producing company again, Eric, is Pastel, which is Adela Romansky and Barry Jenkins. Very much similar to what they did last year with Aftersun. They will be carrying that film throughout the season. That also is going to be at NIF, but Barry Jenkins' connection to the Telluride Film Festival does not guarantee that it will not be screening here. Fair Play was at Sundance. I very much like that. Flora and Son, which was a big film at Sundance. And we do know we'll be playing at TIFF. We think that it will also be playing here as well. That'll be good counter programming to something like The Zone of Interest, I believe. and Promised Land which is I always love to see a new Mads Mikkelsen performance in my life.
Dan Romer's music.
Yes, I'm so ready for that. But I think it's best to talk about the big elephant in the room. And it's the film that Sophia was just trying to refer to, and I think it's okay to talk about it. We got to talk about it on a podcast because we've been talking about it on the phone the last week, and we'd all been going back and forth on it because this past week, the Spotlight Awards or the Spotlight announcements, I guess, or the lineup for New York was announced, and it was missing one giant filmmaker that is known for the New York region. His name is Martin Scorsese, and his movie Killers of the Flower Moon. And so that would mean that there's no New York premiere as of now. There's nothing at TIFF and nothing at Venice. The movie premiered at Cannes. So all indications would mean that is a Telluride or bust situation before October 20th. And we have heard way too much back and forth between what we think might happen, what won't. I'm going to ask everyone percentage-wise, what do they think is going to happen with Killers of the Flower Moon at Telluride? Percent chance, I'm going to start with Sophia. Okay. Percent chance that Killers of the Flower Moon is going to land at the Telluride Film Festival.
So I have to say first, like I feel crazy like talking about this movie in Telluride because I am such an impatient individual. Like I love the surprise of the schedule, but I also just want to know specifically if this movie is going to be here. And I've been theorizing and everything. It's been a nightmare. Where I am right now on it. So about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, when I decided I was going to come to Telluride this year, I thought to myself, could Killers of the Flower Moon go to Telluride? Like, does that make sense? And I remember going to the Wikipedia page of Silver Medallion winners and not seeing Martin Scorsese's name there. And just thinking in the back of my head, this could happen for the 50th. Like that just he feels important. He feels like the right filmmaker to give a tribute to. And I can't, and Ryan and I have been talking about this, I can't imagine this movie not having a North American premiere. Like this is his Western. Like it's about a region of the country near Colorado. And there's so much that goes into it, but percentage wise, just to get down to the point, right now, I'm thinking positively. I'm going to say 80%. I'm going to go on the higher end and say 80% this is happening. Manifestation, power of positive thinking.
Christina?
First it was Erik who told me that he'd never been feted at Telluride before. So that feels just like at the 50th festival, it feels like it's sure thing. And after hearing Sophia, now I'm absolutely 80% as well, and 100% that we'll all die when it happens.
I'm gonna start sobbing in the airport when I get the schedule.
Yeah, we're gonna be like right next to each other. Erik, where are you at? Oh no, here comes Debbie Downer.
Well,
no, Holly Hobby, not Debbie Downer.
It's fine to be realistic and bring us down to earth.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing, because I've been working on this as a theory for quite a few weeks because everything was clicking and it was making sense. And it definitely started with the 50 years of the Silver Medallion and him not being a recipient. And he is a friend of the festival.
Big friend.
He was just there a few years ago. We are going to have tributes that are not actor tributes. So that will be directors and documentarians and cinematographers, and that's who will make up the tributes this year. But even without that, I can't think of anyone else that would make more sense than Scorsese as a tribute. It doesn't mean the film has to screen, but
that would hurt.
That would
hurt.
But it would be more likely. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, if he's there as a tribute, will they really not screen it? It seems kind of crazy. the things that I'm hearing are a little back and forth. So I'm probably at a straight 50%.
Wow.
Of happening or not happening.
Way to hedge your bet.
Because the conversations that I'm having have leaned me away a little bit from it being there. Obviously, I want it to be there.
But why do you think it's not at NIF?
That's completely confusing to me. And it's really strange for some of these films that are going to have like single festival runs. Like, why is The Killer only going to be at Venice and nowhere else? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I've been floating around the idea of AFI, but
there's another option, right? But
yeah, that's another option. Yeah, because that's premiering in late November.
There won't be another major festival option for Killers. So it does make sense to have him there. It's an extremely robust lineup that we're going to have. But this will be the crown jewel if it does. It all depends on Apple, on what how they value Killers, but how they understand the
importance
festival market, which hasn't been great. They got lucky with Coda, which was totally not their doing at all. It was just groundswell and grassroots. But since then, they're like flailing. They have no idea what to do with anything that they have and how to release it or anything at all.
Well, none of what they've had really is to the level even of this. I don't think they've ever had a title like this. I mean,
no, and they have this in Napoleon in the same year. Napoleon is clearly not going to any festivals. So
they also
why would you hold back Killers as well?
Well, they also have to hold themselves up to these the partners that they have in distributing these films too, as opposed to when they had with Coda. So it's Paramount, if I'm not mistaken, with Killers of the Flower Moon. They have been premiering that trailer in front of Oppenheimer, especially at the IMAX screenings here for the entire run that the Oppenheimer has. So they are anticipating a big release. But I still think carrying it from Cannes all the way over here, there has been titles in between. And you look at Venice, regardless of how the quality of these films will be on paper, Venice landed so many of the big, important directors of the season. They landed Coppola, they landed Mann, they landed Lanthimos, they landed David Fincher. They landed a lot. And so looking at that, and then you look at the films that we'll talk about here real quick about the sort of level of director and being like that, what we've all talked about, that this is the director's festival, to not have a prestige director, right, of his level, and to never have awarded him this at all. He's handed a medallion to Adam Driver, but not gotten one himself. That is baffling. A baffling
I love those
decision.
Photos though, with the height difference.
Yeah, he's so like good. This tall giant tree.
It was
next,
hilarious.
And so I just, but then I agree with you, Erik. There is the Apple of it all. Understanding also, I think that you could have a real significant moment premiering it there. I know Sophia was doing some historical research about the area.
It makes it sound so weird.
It's fair to look at it, because I still think of the reason why it's not at New York and why I could play at Telluride rather than New York is New York is still considered East Coast, very, while it's his home turf for sure, for the type of film and the subject matter, it makes sense for Telluride. So, but then again, I'm also like, I say this all as like, I can't ever have nice things. All those films I mentioned in Venice, I can't wait to see them, but I'm not going to see them. So, and it would just be the most deflating thing not to have the Martin Scorsese's latest film go at a festival, and especially this one. And so I'm going to go 65%. As much as it's a strong 65%, but 35% of me is just like, come on, Ryan, you know better than that. This lineup is there's even with an extra day, it is hard to schedule a 3.5 hour film. It's very hard to do so. Bardo got away with
plus a tribute.
Bardo got away with it because it premiered opening night and it had and it didn't have a tribute.
Yeah.
It didn't have a tribute. And it was Netflix's big push, and Netflix has something else, 2 other films here, and so it's different. And Apple, if they have Flora and Son in a film that we'll talk about here in a second, that's 2 films already. This would make it for a third. That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
For even them to handle. So, but if it's an opening night tribute and then the first thing in the morning tribute up on the mountain at the resort, and that's it, that would make sense. But it would be the only thing you're seeing opening night. And that's the only way I think it works. So that's why I'm 35% against it.
No, you're right. I need to be more realistic. I'm just like riding high on the possibility, really.
Oh, I mean, if it happens, Eric's right. If this happens, this festival would trump any festival lineup that we had so far, because you have all these world premieres, which is more world premieres than they had even last year. And then you were able to pull Martin Scorsese's film from everybody else in the fall. That's pretty big. It's not like, it's not like May, December. And May, December is another one where May, December, it just went to Cannes and now it's only going to New York.
Mm-hmm.
So it's skipping Venice and Telluride in Toronto. So a one festival throughout the season for a movie is not out of the question. So
yeah,
but it also feels like such a 50th birthday thing. I mean, 50th of the festival. It has to start with a bang. It just feels like the obvious thing.
Okay,
I mean,
all
such
right.
a friend of the festival. Silver Medallion. It's the obvious thing to do.
Screw it, 70%. God damn it.
Yeah. I mean, the 50th thing is huge.
Yeah, that's the thing that keeps pulling is let's get into the world premieres because we're running long, but also I want to talk about these world premieres to counterbalance the fact that if you're going to include a movie like Killers of the Flower Moon, you also have all these world premieres from all these other directors here that have to have their place in all of this as well too, and their times to shine. And with all these world premieres that we have currently through all of Eric's wonderful work, I mean, big films like The Holdovers from Alexander Payne and Saltburn from Emerald Fennell, her follow-up to Promising Young Woman. Potentially, rumors are that we would get The Bike Riders from Jeff Nichols, his long-awaited follow-up to Loving. And there's a couple other, and then of course there's the Netflix titles of Rust and Naiad. There's a lot of, and I didn't even scratch the surface. Eric, you want to mention a couple of these other ones as well too? I mean,
those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones.
those are the
All
major,
the Strangers.
I won't talk about that in a minute.
I heard that. Did you hear how giddy he got for a second there? He's like, wait, Eric, why did you get giddy for All of Us Strangers?
I don't know why he's not going to be there. So
I know, but
I don't know what I'm getting.
Just the thought of seeing him on the screen again, it's like a reunion. You chased him around last year.
Rust, which was maybe rumored to come out last year, took a little bit of time, and now it's going to be here. Naiad as well, and I mean the open secret rumor is also that Annette Bening was one of the actor tributes for Telluride this year.
Yeah.
Which is why the film was there. So she won't be able to receive that or be there to receive it anyway.
Rumor has it the reason why she's not doing it this year is actually not the strike, but Hillary Swank. So.
How dare you? Too soon.
Okay, it's Natalie Portman. I'm sorry.
So there's that. And that's why we're kind of, when we're talking about tributes, we're really primarily looking at directors of like who could possibly be the director lineup. And Alexander Payne, talk about a friend of the festival, clearly feels like a tribute. You mentioned Saltburn. from Amazon Studios, not MGM.
Yeah, they've got their shit together, I guess.
The bike riders thing is a funny thing because it's one of those that started as a rumor and it's sort of just, it's taken off and there's no real like source foundation for it. It just starts to happen. I mean, I think, yes, that it will be there, but it also, things start to take a life of their own. Rumors just, they get to the next person, and then it becomes absolute fact by the time it's told 2 times. Because nobody cares to do any proper follow-up. They just will say things. And then all of a sudden there it is. But the Kitty Green's follow-up to The Assistant, The Royal Hotel with Julia Garner and Jessica Henwick, which sounds absolutely fascinating, should be here as a world premiere. I know there's a handful of documentaries, like The Pigeon Tunnel, Aaron Morris, also somebody who would be a total tribute winner as a documentarian. One thing Tip is really doing in a big way are actor-director films.
Yeah.
Lots of actor-director films, which allows them to be there for it as
wink, wink,
the director.
Nudge, nudge.
Like Chris Pine and Anna Kendrick and Michael Keaton. And Telluride should have Wildcat from Ethan Hawke. It also stars Maya Hawke. So that should be here.
When I first saw that Wildcat, I think, oh, Erik and I will cry together. I think that
I know.
We'll cry again.
I thought at first that it was like a feature version of it already. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, ooh, good casting though. Because Maya Hawke would actually be really good as her.
Yeah.
What else do we have?
Well, there's Fingernails, which is the Jesse Buckley, Riz Ahmed, Jeremy Allen White contender for Hot Cast of the Year award.
From Apple. That's their premiere there.
And Janet Planet.
Yeah,
people are very excited about Janet Planet.
Yeah, I am. I love Annie Baker.
Yeah, and that's one of the films that does not have a distribution. Wildcat does not either.
You put Food Inc. too?
Yeah. It's there. It's there.
It's there. Okay.
That's all I'll say on that. It's there.
There's Daddy-O as well, the Dakota
Johnson and Sean Penn. Yikes.
Yeah. Sophia's number one anticipated. We were actually joking about Zone of Interest and Killers. It's actually Daddy-O.
It's actually Daddy-O, the title alone. And you have to have a Sean Penn feature at one of these festivals every year.
Yeah, you got to have a disaster.
And it's usually Cannes that goes ahead and takes his total dumper film.
I saw a really bad one at Cannes.
So,
you don't really have to, but okay.
they love taking his shit films.
Talk about a tribute. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Oh no.
No, never mind.
Oh, no. But I'm not familiar with Christy Hall. Have you guys seen the director?
I think this is her directorial debut.
Oh, it is. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, and I think it's also Dakota Johnson's the producer on the project with her producer.
Yeah, this is one of her films.
Yeah. It's an interesting premise, but it's also like a Sean Penn. So
she's really fun at Telluride, so it's really too bad that she won't be there.
Oh, you're just gonna brag about the time that you dance with the the Lost Daughter cast all night long?
Yeah, and Simon Rex tried to hook up with Dakota Johnson, and she said absolutely the fuck not. Hilarious.
Chris Martin said fuck off.
He tried so hard. It was so funny.
Oh my God.
But in terms of tributes, I mean, you mentioned Ethan Hawke. We talked about Alexander Payne. A movie that, or a short that could carry over from Venice is Henry Sugar, which would mean Wes Anderson tribute.
And it should. That should be here.
That should be here. Yeah. You've got a name on this list, though, Erik. I'm curious about my boy, Our boy.
Denny V? Denny V?
Why is Denis Villeneuve on this list, Eric? What you got to explain that for us. We were on the Zoom before you got here wondering what kind of madman excuse do you have for Denny V being on the sheet?
I don't. I just thought that it might be because, Dune is coming and nobody can do any proper advertising for it. That he might be. His films have been here before. Prisoners, which we just talked about the other day. Arrival. He is also a friend of the festival, so him being here makes sense. Doesn't have to be a surprise screening of Dune 2. So don't even start.
So Eric, does that mean that there will be a surprise screening of Dune 2? You heard it here first.
I'll say there is a 2% chance of that.
Take it, world.
I'm
the
at
real
0 for that.
Yeah.
This is the real scoop, not other places. Yeah, honestly,
this is the funny thing, because yes, I think Telluride is thought of and recognized as very auteur based, lots of can titles, non-English language films, documentaries, and that is kind of what it's really about. There are no red carpets, nothing's fancy, so it feels a lot of the time very less star driven, but it's really not. There are huge films that are here. Gravity was here. King Richard world premiered here. Belfast world premiered here. Big movies come here all the time, and their stars with it. So it's not always just this quiet little unassuming mountain town festival. It's not all indies. There is a pretty healthy balance, which again, I think is another great reason to have Killers of the Flower Moon here.
Well, the Killers of the Flower Moon, I mean, Arrival comes to mind. There's a movie, the creator from Gareth down.
Yes.
It could happen as well.
I forgot it's in one of our other sections.
Yeah, because
talk about
Fantastic Fest here in Austin, it has it designated as a premiere. The creator, the John David Washington sci-fi film that has probably one of the worst trailers I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, regardless of that, it said Texas premiere on that, which is an interesting note to make about a movie.
Yeah.
Which is also like Texas premiere. Okay. But is that a hint at maybe?
I don't think there are any other ways you could interpret that than it being at Telluride.
And Eric was like, when does Fantastic Fest happen? I'm like, 2 weeks after Telluride, so it could be for, who is that? Who's doing that? I don't even know. I don't even know the studio that's doing it. It could be word of mouth, or could kill the film. You never know. But that could be something that's more in between, because if Killers of the Flower Moon, and this has been something that some people have said online, is that if it does premiere, there would be the biggest budgeted film to ever premiere at the Telluride Film Festival. But I don't give a shit about any of that, because it matters about the filmmaker behind it, which is Martin Scorsese. They don't care about budget. It would be $1 billion movie, and it would be like, oh, it's Martin Scorsese, friend of the fest, and has a champion of cinema. Yeah, we'll screen that. No one's going to pass up that opportunity, regardless of the budget of it. So, but yeah, no. I mean, if Poor Things goes, you could even see Yorgos Lanthimos potentially as a tribute if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I probably should add him in there, because
that makes sense more than Denny V.
It would make sense.
I mean, if Villeneuve did get the tribute, he would have to show at least an extended preview, I believe, of Dune, not the whole thing, but maybe like 20 minutes of it or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, just show Timmy on a worm. That's all Eric wants to see.
I already saw that.
Do it again.
I saw it.
Also, too, Dune would be more like a Toronto player, because they have an IMAX. To see a movie like that, you would need, I think, the biggest screen possible. So I don't think that makes sense. But that's just me.
No. I mean, I don't think Dune is going to be here. I think that's silly. You mentioned All of Us Strangers earlier, which was formerly titled Strangers.
Wipe the drool off your mouth right now.
If I could tell you the thing that I know about this movie,
Don't, because I don't like being spoiled.
The ground would open and swallow you whole. I cannot
like drag me to hell.
I am barely able to contain myself in anticipation of seeing this moment.
I think
is all I can say,
God.
but
I think I meant
it involves some mescaline, right? A little bit of mescal there.
Yes.
I'm scared. I'm scared now. I don't want to. You know what, Sophia, Christina, let's not sit next to him during that. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, nobody should sit next to me, in front of me, anywhere around me. You don't want to be in the splash zone.
Okay.
Oh my God.
You just don't. You don't. But
Lord.
yes,
sorry,
okay,
listeners,
yes.
to everyone out there.
Yes,
Please write all your hate mail to Erik Anderson.
No, it won't be hate mail.
It'll be like, what's your mail, bitch? You know what I mean?
This is Andrew Hay,
hey.
and from looking 45 years. Goodness, I keep thinking about it now. Anyway, Paul Mescal, Andrew Scott, Claire Foy, and Jamie Bell. It is a ghost story. Jamie Bell and Claire Foy play Scott's parents, who are kind of like haunting him. Mescal is a stranger who develops a relationship with Scott. It is based on a book that had completely flip-flopped genders and locations and language, so it should be a wild adaptation from that.
Wild.
And yeah, there's nothing I'm looking forward to more than this.
Wow. Okay.
Nothing.
Well, I'm going to tell Coleman Domingo you said that about Rustin.
I'm sorry. You won't be able to, because he won't be there.
He won't be there. That's fine. I'll call him. It's fine. We text all the time. That, I mean, Andrew, hey, that could be a tribute as well too. Someone, maybe.
Feels a little less likely.
Yeah.
But I
maybe.
mean,
you never know.
You could take a handful of any of these directors that have, more than
2 titles.
Films.
Yeah, it's not going to be Emerald Fennell.
No,
it's like what? It's Promising Young Woman. Green. And then like when they do the Q&A, let's talk about Midge.
Although, I mean, Sarah Polley doesn't have that many, but she had a full career as an actor before she became a director too. So there was also a lot to work with there.
She has some great films.
Yeah,
before
she has some
women
amazing
talking.
Films.
Yeah. No, I'm saying is that she had films, plural, before Women Talking, and they were amazing.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
Woman lived many lives, though, really. So,
really?
Yeah, but that's in the past.
Very
that's really
much.
past lives that it lived. You know what I mean? So, and they're buried and dead. So,
Emerald Fennell talks brilliantly about Camilla and the Crown.
True. In the 4 scenes that she's in.
Listened to that a long time, but amazing to talk to her about that.
So, for everyone, I guess we already know, Erik, your SeaWorld moment with All of Us Strangers with your splash zones, your most anticipated film of the festival. But Sophia, Christina, do you have, of this lineup, do you have a couple of films that are your most anticipated besides Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall, of these world premieres? Even is there something there that is sticking out to you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I'm highly anticipating Saltburn. I was not the biggest fan of Promising Young Woman. I think that film is just very polarizing. But I mean, I'm excited because of this premise alone. I love The Talented Mr. Ripley, and I love this sort of like aristocratic scene, everything behind it, like the stills that were released. I was like, okay, I can be very on board with this movie. The cast is fantastic. I'm so excited for Rosamund Pike to be in this, and Jacob Elordi being the classmate you were obsessed with. I can relate to that. I mean, if I went to school with him, I might behave the same way. We will see, as Barry Keoghan. And I think I'm excited too to see Barry Keoghan in a role that's a follow-up to his Oscar nomination with The Banshees of Inisherin. So yeah, I think this feels like it could be really fun. So I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, me too. I'm highly looking forward to it.
Oh, me too. Completely agree.
Yeah.
That's my number 2.
Yeah, that's one of my big ones as well. I'm really looking forward to the Royal Hotel too, and that's because of Kitty Green, who I just think is fascinating, the assistant, and she always does such really thrilling, interesting takes on everything she does. Also her documentaries, and Julia Garner and Jessica Henwick, which I think who's been great in so many things these past. So I'm really looking forward to that. And absolutely, I agree with you, Sophia, 100%. Saltburn is number 1 on my list. Can't wait to see that. So a lot of really interesting women directors here. Also, since we were talking about Justin Triet and things like that. So lots to look forward to.
I'm looking. No. Go, Sophia.
I was just going to say another one I'm excited for is Janet Planet. I know we touched on that briefly. Annie Baker is an amazing playwright, and she has a new play out right now that I'm really excited to see, Infinite Life. She does these very delicate character studies. So I'm mostly excited, I think, for the screenplay. It could also be great, acting showcases too. I believe Julianne Nicholson is in this. And I think a fun thing of Annie Baker, I will point out, is that she is married to Noah Baumbach's brother, Nico.
Those dinners.
So we could, if this gets a distributor, if it, takes off, we could be looking at, some family awards attention in the screenplay category. So it should be fun.
That's so wild, because this is coming after Past Lives and Celine Song being a playwright and then doing her first film, and she's married to the writer of Challengers. Like, what is going on?
What's going on? These writer families.
Love it.
Yeah.
I really wish we were seeing Challengers this year. It's just it just really breaks my heart. I'm really looking forward to The Holdovers because one, I'm tired of the trailer already in my local theaters. And it's the film that everyone that I know around me, including my parents, won't shut up about, because it's like I was telling Sophia this the other day. My mom, when we saw Oppenheimer, she didn't even say Paul Giamatti. She went to refer to him as, "Oh, Paul's back in a movie," like they're long lost friends. And so, I think the film has had this long rumored to just be this crowd pleasing sort of hit, and it like Erik, I think you said last week or the week before, it's premiered at a market, offsite at TIFF last year, and so it's built this behind the scenes buzz. And from that trailer, it does look back into sort of sideways form for Payne and working alongside with Giamatti for the first time since. So that could be a big awards player, but if those rumors end up being true about the bike riders, that would be my highly anticipated film. I love Jeff Nichols. I don't think Jeff Nichols has made a bad movie at all, and it has been far too long. And a couple of years ago, I actually met Jeff Nichols. He was moderating a Q&A for a movie that nobody remembers, The Tindaba, that has Ty Sheridan in it. And we were talking, and he said, "I had an idea for a movie. I just need somebody to finance it. And I think it'd be really interesting." And it was this film. And so I'm dying to see what this movie is. It's got an insane cast. Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy. I if that movie is there, I'll push.
This is
Erik.
A very horny cast.
Yeah, I will push Erik out of the goddamn way. I'm gonna get out of the way, and to see it. But and if there was one movie from we mentioned earlier that could come here, and if it does have a festival run, and A24 has been playing very coy, but if The Iron Claw does somehow make it into this lineup as a sort of like maybe a surprise or a test screening or something whatnot. That would be the most anticipated thing I have outside of Killers of the Flower Room, because I've had that Sean Durkin stock for a long time. I think, and The Nest was phenomenal. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, phenomenal films. So and that movie has the potential to be his film where we all really know him as a household name. Obviously, Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Lily James, big cast there. And I am curious about Wildcat, Ethan Hawke, working with Maya Hawke, Hawk, when he's behind the camera and been doing things lately, he's really been phoning and focusing in on the artists and major talents. And this is his follow-up from his documentary last year, The Last Movie Star, about Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. And so I personally cannot wait to see his next film. And if you haven't seen Blaze from 2018 too, that's an interesting way of doing a musical or a music biopic. So that's a film that I'm highly anticipating as well as Saltburn too, because I mean, I saw those photos the other day and it looked wild. And yes, so Sophia, talented Mr. Ripley vibes, you had me there. Hello. And All of Us Strangers, I mean, yeah, everything that Erik said, little less than what Erik said, but the same sort of emphasis and feeling. But
you're saving that for Iron Claw.
Yeah, and I am also interested in Naiad, because I love Annette Bening, but also to Jodie Foster. I've said for years that I feel like Jodie Foster will have another role that's going to be very big in her opposite Annette Bening, and that seems to be Netflix's biggest player from this to TIFF. So I'm very much interested in that. So,
one thing we forgot to mention on the list that should be there is the new Angelina Jolie movie that she's directing called Without Blood.
Yes,
with Salma Hayek and Damian Bashir. So that should be here as well.
Yes,
Would love to see Angelina Jolie on the mountain. My God.
Oh my God,
that would be incredible.
Oh my God.
I would gag.
What about tribute there? Yeah, that's.
I mean, as a director, that's questionable, but as an actor, as an overall person, sure. I mean, it would be.
I wouldn't hate it.
I mean, it would be an interesting conversation. That's for sure.
Yes, it would.
Yeah. So, all right, we've gone on long enough talking about the Telluride Film Festival.
Yeah, this is going to be like a 30-minute chat.
Yeah, this is supposed to be 30 minutes, and Erik's like Splash Zone. But
I'm so excited. I'm saying 90% on Killers of the Flower Moon now.
Oh my goodness!
Whoa!
I can't. I'm ready to go down to like 20.
Okay, I'm going.
Scared.
No,
all right, I'm going to 60.
On.
I'm going to 60%. I got to balance it out. Christina, can you? Thank you for coming on. By the way, can you tell everybody where we can find you and all your work on the internet?
Yes, you can go to popcultureconfidential.com, or you can subscribe on anywhere you get your podcast. You can hear my shows there with several of these wonderful people on all the time. And I can't wait to have you all again to talk more Telluride later.
Yes. Christina, last question, actually, and this will be a question for Sophia and Erik too. Window or aisle seat when you're traveling? Window or aisle?
Aisle, a 100% aisle seat person.
Okay.
Me too.
Well, it wasn't your turn to answer, Erik, so you can just shut your mouth. All right.
It's a one answer question. Yeah. There's not really a lot to kind of.
Well, there could be a method to it. I mean, Sophia, where can we find you, and what's your answer to it?
Yeah, you can find me in the aisle seat when I'm traveling, because I don't like to be pinned in by strangers that I'm sitting next to. That's why you will always find me there. But you can also find me on Twitter, I guess, sure. X. I don't really, whatever. Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and Instagram at Sophia_Sim. And you can find my podcast, Oscar Wilde, at Oscar Wilde Pod. We release episodes every Friday on award season, retrospectives on movies, everything like that.
Go also to.
Can I just say you can follow me at Tech X? I forgot to say it, Christina Birro.
Yes. And also go to patreon.com/Oscar Wilde and sign up for Sophia and Nick's Patreon. Mm-hmm. You won't regret it. There's a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, we have an episode on, it's like a Barbenheimer spinoff coming this week on Red Eye and About Time. So 2 earlier, like Margot and Cillian Murphy films.
So cool.
Red Time. About Eye. That doesn't sound good. Erik, can we find you? In your one-word answer?
Adam. No, my one-word answer is aisle. That's it.
Ow.
I mean, my God, especially if it's like a long flight. I mean, why would you want it?
Some people like the window, which I don't get.
Stupid. What are you, a fish? No. Aisle seat. Absolutely not.
Sorry to all of our listeners out there.
You can find me.
Likes the window.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever. You can find me at awardswatch.com, on Twitter at awards_watch, and then AwardsWatch everywhere else. Letterboxd, Blue Sky, Threads, places I don't ever post, things like that.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work here at awardswatch.com, as well as follow me on all those other platforms so you can see where I'm doing other stuff for other people. Aisle seat 444, that is correct. That was the correct answer for everyone. Congratulations, you all passed. Also, while you're over at awardswatch.com, sign up for our newsletter that Erik puts together. He always forgets to mention that in these episodes, so I end up having to do it, which is wonderful. If you like podcasts, you should listen to the Director Watch podcast. We are starting our new series on Denis Villeneuve this week with the first review will be of Incendies. And what else? Oh, go to iTunes and Spotify. Give us 5 stars. Tell us how much you love the show. If you got anything negative to say, just email it to Erik. I'm sure he'll respond. Next week,
I will.
Next week, we will be doing a show related to, I believe, Gran Turismo. It's like top 5 sports movies. It's the last show before we get into the festival season, and then we'll have a week off after that. So thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.